Next, we have a resolution to recognize Second Story for their 50th anniversary of service to the young people in our community. And this was requested by myself, and we have Judith Dittman, CEO of Second Story, here with us. If you could come on down. And I will hand the gavel to Supervisor Gross as I have a resolution. Whereas since 1972, Second Story has provided safe havens and opportunities to grow and thrive to youth experiencing homelessness and youth and families in crisis. And whereas Second Story's programs serve youth experiencing homelessness, young mothers, teens in crisis, and families, and whereas Second Story's services include long-term housing, life skills support, counseling, basic needs assistance, short-term housing, drop-in centers, and much more. Whereas Second Story works closely with youth and families to help them achieve self-sufficiency, breaking cycles of homelessness, abuse, and poverty. And whereas Second Story's programs have grown and evolved with the needs of the community, and the organization continues to work toward its vision of a community in which all young people are safe, live in a nurturing environment, and have the opportunity to reach their full potential. And whereas for 50 years, Second Story has helped thousands of children, youth, and families write their second stories. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors, on behalf of all Fairfax County residents, does hereby recognize and thank Second Story for its exceptional service to our community.
Seconded by Supervisor Palchik. Is there discussion, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, very briefly, Madam Chairman. First, Judith, it's always good to have you here, and I know you contribute so much to our county, but in particularly, your work with Second Story is inspiring to all of us, and the many success stories that the organization has had. 50 years is a long time. I would think that the challenges that are facing particularly our youth today are greater than even in past years, and the need for services to help our young people has never been more important than it is right now. Young people have been through a lot, and I've said this repeatedly, outside of even just the ones suffering from poverty and homelessness, but just from a mental health standpoint, having gone through the pandemic, loss of learning, financial crises, health crises, our youth, bullying, social media, go through a lot. And being able to have organizations particularly geared towards helping young families and young people in our community is never been more important than now. And so I salute you personally, but also Second Story and the volunteers and the folks and the contributors that make so much success happen for the people who really your organization help, which is what this is all about. And having done that for 50 years is just remarkable. So wishing you great success in the future and 50 more years of great service to those in need in our community. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Additional discussion, Supervisor Palchik.
Yes, thank you. And just briefly, it's so good to see you, Judith, and your team does such incredible work. And as the chairman said, supporting our youth. We're 50 years. I know you've seen, and your predecessors have seen many changes in the work and in the needs in our community, and especially these last few years. I know that your work with our county and schools, homelessness offices, with supporting the rising needs that we're seeing. But especially, I know you are a go-to. There are not a lot of opportunities here to really know where to turn when we have a youth, our young moms. I think your work with our young mothers is just incredible. I know you and we wish you could do more and more and reach more of those young mothers, and hopefully we can continue to help you grow those programs. But everything you've done that you do for these teens, and now with our opportunity neighborhoods, the work of Second Story really, really is critical. I know that you care for every single one of the lives that you're touching through your programs, the variety of programs, through your volunteers. And I just want to thank you for being such a support. I know that we in our office can turn to you whenever we need advice, whenever we hear of a story of someone in need. And so just thank you again, 50 years and going strong, and thank you for being such a critical and vibrant partner here in Fairfax.
Supervisor Alcorn.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you. I'm just going to pile on a little bit, if I could, and I want to thank the chairman for bringing this proclamation forward. I believe Supervisor Palchik and I were at a housing event in Vienna in April where I learned a few things. It's very interesting, really extremely concerning data from Fairfax County Public Schools. We have approximately 200 teenagers in FCPS that are homeless and without adult supervision countywide. We have about 10 times that many students in FCPS that are what we call couch surfers. They're sleeping on a friend or family member's couch that's not their home. This is, what you're doing is so critical for our community, for these young people, for their futures, for their families. I only wish we could do so much more. And the model that you have provided and continue to provide is really a model of hope that this is a problem that we can get our arms around and that we can really make a difference. So thank you for everything that you've been doing and continue to do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Alcorn. Judith, I'm thinking back a couple of decades when we first met. Actually, it was Alternative House, I believe, at the time. And with a name change, it actually didn't change the outreach and the work that you do. It just sort of makes it a more cohesive understanding of what the programs are. It's been a while since I actually sat in on any of your programs. COVID sort of shut that down. But I know in the times in the Colmore area especially, in visiting some of the programs, and I remember one was down in the basement of, I think it was Old Salem Village, and you had to go down a very dark concrete stairway into something equally dark. But when you got into the room, it was full of young people who were chilling, actually, and having the kind of input and role models available to them that they needed. And I've always remembered that as something that Second Story has done for both boys and girls. And so as you have struggled over time as a nonprofit, as many of our nonprofits have done, you really have, Second Story has risen to the occasion and become such a stalwart part of our community. And so congratulations, 50 years, golly, it doesn't seem like it's been that long, but the organization was pretty young when I first got acquainted with you, but you have done a tremendous amount of work, tremendous commitment to our community, and thank you. Seeing and hearing no other discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? That motion carries, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Gross, and Judith, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you. It has been a long time since I've been here. Well, my car almost didn't know how to find the way. I used to be down here. It felt like this was my second office building. I was here so often. It is great to see all of you again, and I'm glad I didn't prepare remarks about what Second Story does because you guys have all covered it so well. I am honored to be able to receive this for Second Story, and it certainly is on behalf of the staff and our board and our volunteers who are all committed to making sure that young people are safe and that youth and families have the opportunity that they deserve to thrive. We have done a lot over the last 50 years, and I will say that there are two things that really stand out as making our job easier, and one is the young people themselves. They really want to succeed. They really want to know how to move forward. And so to be able to come to work and do that is very inspiring, not just for me, but I think for all of our staff. And it's not always easy to work with young people who are in crisis. And so I really want to recognize what they do to make the successes that we do achieve possible. The other thing that makes our job easier is, as Supervisor Gross has alluded, I have been with Second Story for 27 years. And I've seen the organization grow, and I've seen it rise to the challenges that we see emerging in our community with young people and their families. And over the years, I've talked to people who do the same kind of work in other communities, and they don't have the support that we have here from our community, from our county government, from our donors. And, you know, they're struggling, and we are struggling too, but we have a really solid wall at our back to help us make the successes that we've been able to have. And as Chairman McKay alluded to, we've got another at least 50 years ahead of us. And there are all sorts of things that we need to tackle, things around opioid addiction, around mental health crises, around providing the sort of support to young people who've experienced homelessness to get them beyond that first job at $15 an hour and into careers where they can afford to stay in Fairfax County and not have to leave because they can't afford to live here. So those are some of the things that we're focusing on as we move forward, and of course always there to address issues that are affecting young people and their families. So thank you very much, and I look forward to working with you, maybe not for the next 50, but certainly for the next several years.
Thank you very much, Judith. Very much appreciated. Great words. And I think we're ready for a photo. And Supervisor Palchik, our Health and Human Services Committee Chair, if you'd like to join me for a photo. And if anyone else is here with you, Judith, they're welcome to come down.
That's the problem with having a staff that works really hard and a board that is dynamic. I think I'm solo today. Thank you, though.
That is perfectly fine. Thank you.